Receiving a notice from the Internal Revenue Service, IRS, is rarely a welcome event, but some notices carry more weight than others. Among the most serious is the CP508C, Notice of Certification of Your Seriously Delinquent Federal Tax Liability to the U.S. State Department. This notice is not merely a request for payment. It is a direct threat to one of your most fundamental privileges as a citizen, the right to travel internationally. This discussion provides a comprehensive overview of the CP508C notice, the legal authority behind it, and the steps you must take to resolve the underlying tax liability and protect your passport. The authority for the IRS to certify a tax liability to the U.S. State Department comes from Internal Revenue Code, IRC, ticker 7345, which was enacted as part of the Fixing America's Surface Transportation, FAST Act in 2015. This law mandates that the IRS notify the State Department of any taxpayer with a seriously delinquent tax. Once certified, the U.S. State Department is generally required to deny the individual's passport application and may revoke or limit an existing passport. This powerful collection tool was designed to provide the IRS with significant leverage to compel payment from taxpayers with substantial outstanding liabilities. The constitutionality of this law has been challenged in court, but has been consistently upheld, with courts affirming that the government's interest in collecting taxes outweighs the impact on an individual's right to international travel in this context. Understanding the precise definition of a seriously delinquent tax is crucial. According to IRC CP508 Fed B, it is an unpaid, legally enforceable federal tax liability of an individual that meets three specific criteria. 1. Assessed liability. The tax has been formally assessed by the IRS. 2. Monetary threshold. The total unpaid balance, including penalties and interest, exceeds a specific amount. This amount was initially $50,000, but is adjusted annually for inflation. For 2026, the threshold is $66,000. 3. Collection action taken. A notice of federal tax lien has been filed, and the taxpayer's rights to a collection due process, CDP hearing, have been exhausted or lapsed, or a levy has been issued. It is important to note that not all large tax liabilities qualify. The law provides several key exceptions. A tax liability is not considered seriously delinquent if the taxpayer is in a payment plan, making timely payments under an installment agreement or an offer in compromise, OIC. In a CDP hearing, has a pending or timely requested collection due process, CDP hearing regarding a lien or levy. Requesting innocent spouse relief, has made a request for innocent spouse relief under IRC CP508. The process is largely automated. The IRS systems identify taxpayers who meet the criteria for a seriously delinquent tax liability. Once identified, the following steps occur. IRS certification. The IRS certifies the liability to the U.S. Department of State. CP508C notice. The IRS sends the taxpayer the CP508C notice, informing them of the certification and its consequences. State Department action. Upon receiving the certification, the State Department will deny any pending passport application and may begin the process of revoking the taxpayer's current passport. If a taxpayer is abroad when their passport is revoked, the State Department may issue a limited validity passport good only for a direct return to the United States. Receiving a CP508C notice requires immediate action. The key is to no longer have a seriously delinquent tax in the eyes of the IRS. This can be achieved in several ways. Pay the liability in full. Enter into an installment agreement and make the first payment. Have an offer in compromise accepted by the IRS. Request a collection, due process hearing in response to a lien or levy notice. Successfully apply for innocent spouse relief. Once one of these conditions is met, the IRS is required to issue a reversal of the certification and notify the State Department. This is typically done within 30 days of the qualifying event. The IRS will send a CP508R notice to inform the taxpayer of the reversal. It is critical to understand that even after the IRS reverses the certification, The State Department has its own processing time, and passport privileges are not restored instantaneously. Taxpayers have the right to challenge a certification in U.S. tax court or a U.S. district court. However, the scope of this review is very narrow. As established in cases like Furman v. Commissioner and Adams v. Commissioner, the court can only determine if the certification was erroneous, i.e., the IRS failed to follow the law in IRC 7345, or if the IRS has failed to reverse the certification in a timely manner. The court cannot review the underlying tax liability itself in these proceedings. Recent court cases show that partial payments do not stop passport certification. The courts have no jurisdiction regarding the challenge to the underlying tax. IRC 7345 is constitutional, and the courts do not believe the Fifth Amendment's Due Process Clause is violated by passport restrictions. The IRS certified the tax liability and sent it to the U.S. State Department, who directly restricts passport rights. The U.S. State Department does not have access to tax records, so do not contact them regarding your tax dispute. This is an IRS matter. Contact IRS to solve your passport problem. You must enter into an IRS agreement like an installment agreement, offer in compromise or currently not collectible, also known as a financial hardship. Consider judicial review by the courts in narrow circumstances. Allow for 30 days for the IRS to notify the U.S. State Department of the decertification. Expect additional time for the U.S. State Department to reinstate passport rights. For a deeper dive into solving IRS tax problems, scan the QR code to watch the free video. Protect your freedom to travel. Do not let a tax liability ground you and restrict your travel plans. Resolve your CP508C notice today. Book a consultation with us at do.hrichtax.com. Be sure to like and subscribe to get notified of more videos in the future. Thanks for watching.